They want to try to act like we are the outsiders, but the last time I checked, we ain't no colonizers. The last time I checked, they took us from our homeland. But this is the only home that we know. But my homeboy said, listen, I'ma be in your city.
Come out on stage.
You gotta be here. And I was like, I may be in Houston, because, you know, Oak Cliff, where you at? The Cliff know who I am, right? DeSoto, where you at? Yeah. GP, where you at? All right, so the point is, Arlington. Yeah, 'cause I know y'all in here, right? I know y'all know who I am, and I know that y'all know that I'm about this life.
These images of Mike King standing close to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett shows how trusted he was as part of her security detail while she's been in office and while on the campaign trail during her recent run for a U.S. Senate seat. Multiple law enforcement sources say King was the man shot and killed after a standoff with Dallas police SWAT officers on Wednesday night. Police say he was chased into a hospital parking garage where he barricaded himself inside a vehicle before he was forced out by tear gas and pulled a gun on officers.
So we got to talk about a pretty incredible story coming out of the Democrat Party right now. And it involves none other than Ghetto Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Yeah, that Jasmine Crockett. The one who seems to treat Congress like it's a reality TV show instead of, the legislative branch of the United States government. Well, according to the latest reports, her political career may be coming to a very abrupt end because she just got absolutely crushed in a Democrat primary by Texas State Representative James Tallarico. And when I say crushed, I mean humiliated, completely embarrassed, the kind of loss that sends a very clear message not just to her, but the entire Democratic Party about the kind of behavior voters are getting tired of. Now remember, Jasmine Crockett has spent the last couple of years building a reputation not for serious policymaking, not for a thoughtful debate, not for working across the aisle or representing her constituents in a meaningful way, but for viral moments, social media clips, and theoretical performances during congressional hearings. Every time you saw her on television, it felt less like you were watching a member of Congress and more like you were watching someone auditioning for cable news or trying to build a personal brand. And for a while, the media absolutely loved it. The left-wing media ecosystem treated her like a rising star in the Democratic Party, and they pushed her everywhere. Interviews, viral clips, social media amplification. The message from the media was basically, this is the future of the Democratic Party, right? But here's the problem. Voters, even Democratic voters, eventually get tired of the circus. They want competence. They want seriousness. They want someone who actually focuses on policy instead of constantly chasing the next viral clip. And apparently a lot of voters in her own party decided they had enough. But because James Tallarico stepped into this race and completely flipped the script, not to mention Barack Obama backed James Tallarico, but not Jasmine Crockett. That should be very self-telling on his own. That's just a mic drop, okay? Now, Tallarico himself is a Democrat, so this isn't a Republican upset. This is an internal Democratic Party revolt. And that's what makes this so interesting, because when your own party decides they rather replace you with someone else, that says a lot about how badly things have gone for you politically. And that's exactly what happened here. Jasmine Crockett, one of the most media promoted figures in the Democratic Party over the last couple of years, just got taken out in a primary. And not in a close race either. We're talking about a result that people are describing as humiliating for her campaign. The kind of result that makes donors disappear overnight, that makes party leaders quietly move on to the next candidate, and that makes it very clear that your time in Washington is probably coming to an end. Now, this story matters for a couple of reasons. First, it tells you something important about the direction of the Democrat Party and the internal battles happening inside it. Second, it raised a bigger question about what voters actually want from the people representing them in Congress. And do they want viral personalities who are constantly chasing social media attention? Or do they want lawmakers who actually take their job seriously? Because if this result holds the way it's being reported, It looks like even Democratic voters are starting to push back against the kind of political theater that Jasmine Crockett has built her career on. Man, honestly, if you watch the way she conducts herself in Congress over the last couple years, this outcome shouldn't surprise anyone. This was a political career that seemed to be built almost entirely on outrage, confrontation, and attention grabbing moments rather than serious leadership. And eventually that strategy catches up with you. So, in just a second, I'm going to show you what's exactly being reported about, this whole thing when it comes to Jasmine Crockett. And unfortunately, this security guard killed in a standoff with Dallas SWAT team, right? The Dallas SWAT team. Because when you look at all of this, right, when a sitting member whose time is almost up of Congress gets knocked out by someone from their own party, now and all of a sudden this is coming out, especially in this kind of fashion. It sends a very loud message. But hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and I want you guys to check out this next clip I have for you guys to see.
Y'all see this? Doesn't this look very reminiscent of what we saw when Kamala didn't get elected? White, Latino, and Asian people. Y'all are the problem, and that's just the reality. And the Latinos and the Asians, this is exactly why we ain't doing that POC shit no more. Because when push comes to shove, y'all love our culture, but when push comes to shove, y'all vote in line with the white folks. So y'all can stay over there with them. Stop using our culture. Stop trying to act like y'all part of it. All of y'all. I don't want to see no K-pop, no hip-hop dancing from no Asian people. I don't want to see no Latinos over here with their, but we all the Mino blacks. But then y'all want to be bumping hip-hop music. We're done. At this point, this is exactly why black people are saying what we're saying. Because when push comes to shove, the numbers show. Voting is statistics, y'all. That's what I think what a lot of y'all ain't getting. Voting is a statistic. The way that you vote is counted as a statistic, and that's how we get numbers. So you can't say it ain't what it is when the numbers show what it is. The data shows. And this is exactly why you see all the black people on the internet saying, F this, we're done. We did what we're supposed to do. Because just like Kamala had, we had the 92% of black women. You had, I think it was 80 some odd percent of black men. Overall, with the blacks, 93% for Jasmine. We always do what needs to be done. And we do it for everybody else. We don't just pick the people because we like them. We pick them because they're the best. And every time we tell you, just like we told you to vote for Kamala, you didn't listen. And now y'all be on the internet crying about how shit is and crying about your kids going off to war. But y'all don't listen. And then you got another chance again with Jasmine and you did the same shit. So y'all clearly don't want to learn. So y'all, good luck to you. We're done.
I want to speak on that and raise a different question, using my critical thinking. And as always, we just having a conversation. Me being black, understanding black culture, coming from a black family. It just seems to me, and I hate the divisive rhetoric. I hate the black and white thing. It makes my bones just it makes my it bothers my bones, honestly, because this is not a black and white thing. If anything, we're in a class war, and such as when it comes to our families, being able to pass things on, being able to actually have more money in our pockets and pave a way, which the roots of America stood on. You worked hard for what you got. But it's different when you have the Democrat Party who continues to campaign on affordability, but they really tax you to death. It really shows that now we're in a class war because they rather take everything to enrich themselves and to stay in power. So this is deeper. She wants to sit here and talk about, we always show up as black people and show out and vote for our kind, but they still do us this way. You see what happened with Kamala Harris. Now we in a war. Number one, let's debunk the lie here. We're not in a war. It's called Operation Epic Fury. If we were in a war, it will require Congress to give the green light because Congress controls the purse strings for a war to continue with boots on the ground. There will have to be boots on the ground, and there will also have to be the green light from Congress to approve the monies to continue to prop up our military to go to war. But we're not in war. We're in an operation to take down a regime which is weakened within itself, and all the leaders are gone without very much or very little, which is only like what, 4 or 5, 6, but casualties are casualties. Unfortunately, my heart goes out to the family who lost their loved ones. You know, the servicemen and servicewomen that passed away, 4 to 6 of them, I believe. I know 4 came back and, you know, came back to their families. They returned the bodies. But my point is, I understand that at the end of the day, oh, nobody wants to go to war. And I understand the sentiment and how heartbreaking it is for those individuals that passed away. But at the end of the day, you're in the military, right? And we're in an operation, and we have to basically protect our homeland because we have adversaries who want to overthrow us, right? And all the freedom and all the privileges and all the individuals who fought, black or white, who fought together and shedded blood for this country to enjoy the privileges of this lady right here who sits on this screen with her 4 eyes talking a bunch of nonsensical nonsense, being ignorant, which bothers my blood because black, white, Asian, we all stuck together when it came to World War I, World War II. And we all came together understanding that we were in a patriotic attitude of defending our country from the beauty and the privileges that we have today. So I can't sit here and have her spew this nonsense, but the simple fact is it's the Democratic Party that's the enemy, and that's obviously the treasonous or have treasonous behavior against the own country of the United States of America. The Democrat Party is the one that is also the enemy and the adversary against the United States within itself, their own country that they're supposed to be operating on as a public official. So we have an internal adversary, and we have others such as when it comes to Iran, and it comes to China, and it comes to Russia, right? We can be business partners. We ain't got to get along. I mean, we ain't got to like each other, but we can do business together. But we also understand that these individuals are always competing with us to overthrow us with all the privileges and the things we have. It's jealous, it's envy, it's power, control, money, and greed, right? But I say all that to say that the Democrat Party continue to use the black woman like a Kamala. They continue to use Jasmine Crockett. They continue to use Letitia James. They use Fannie Willis. All of those individuals who try to go against Trump to convict Trump, who all had skeletons in their backyard. Fannie Willis sitting there with that attorney that was on her payroll as she was the attorney general of Fulton County in Atlanta, Georgia, sleeping with that man and paying that man 48 to 72 hours round the clock, giving him thousands of dollars, using American taxpayer dollars to travel and go on luxury trips and all of that, wine dining and sleeping with this man that's supposed to be working with her in the attorney general office to convict. And she met with Kamala Harris in the White House to conspire using Fulton County as a way to go after Donald Trump when it comes to rigging the elections. When we know that the Democratic Party was in on rigging the elections, which is still being covered by the Trump administration right now, which is going to blow a lot of people's minds when the news come out. That's why they don't want voter ID, because they want illegals to continue to vote. That's why they don't want ICE at polling places to ensure that American citizens, which is our rightfully so, and black people have fought the right to vote and have the privilege to vote. And I'm not saying that the United States is perfect, but we came a long way, baby. And I'm American. I'm pro-American. I love everything. I don't have to love everything we have done in history, but I love how far we have came. No country is perfect, all right? But the simple fact is, you would go over there to China and you sit there and spew this nonsense anti-China stuff, you'll be in the indoctrination camp. You better hope to live to see another day. So the freedoms, it boggles me. The ungratefulness, it bothers me. But I'm saying all that to say, when it comes to Fannie Willis and them over there doing the things they do, and Letitia James putting her dad as her husband to qualify for a bigger mortgage, to get a bigger house, while she got a family in Virginia she has living in a home that's in her name, while also being a New York attorney general, but using her primary address from Virginia. When you have to live in New York to obviously be an attorney general, your address should be in New York. You should be living in New York where you represent. Not to mention Jasmine Crockett, who continue to say, oh, well, We not picking cotton no more. So all this race, all this chaos, all the white man bad, all the masculinity, being a man is evil. And it's time for women empowerment and feminism. And I'm all for women being empowered. But why are we going against each other as brothers and sisters? Why are women going against men? And let's be honest, men take on the hardest jobs ever that women are not able to take, that won't take on. I'm not going to say able, but they won't take on. You don't see a woman out there building skyscrapers and taking on the hardest jobs ever, building up the infrastructure of the United States of America in this beautiful country. So women want empowerment, but when it comes to a certain job, but they want to be equal as men. And now you got the Democrat Party putting men against each other, making it a black and white thing, and a black woman against all the world, right? Against the white man, and the white man is evil. When women want to be empowered, but when it comes to certain jobs, they don't want to take on that men will take on. When everything in the luxuries that has been enjoyed by women have been built by men. It boggles my mind. Why are we going against each other instead of working together and coming together and being unified with unity? I love unity. I hate chaos, but the Democrat Party always want to make it a good or evil thing, because if they do that, then they can make it like they have overcame evil and you should vote for them. That is the manipulation. So they tried to use these women who thought they were protected by the Democrat Party, who thought if Biden got reelected again, they would be okay, but it didn't go that way because God had a different plan to destroy the corruptness. That's why they went after Donald Trump, because they tried to say Donald Trump over evaluated his companies and he committed mortgage fraud, but it really was Letitia James putting her dad as a husband to get more than she had qualified for with her income. And the banks, what Donald Trump said, we did good business. He took out a loan, they paid us back. Right? So they just didn't want Donald Trump to win the election or be able to run again. So they called him a convicted felon. But when it comes to Letitia James, she got off. Now, when it comes to Fannie Willis, she has to pay back the state of Georgia, but the policy didn't change. I mean, the policy didn't pass when it came to convicting her for taking American taxpayer money and doing what she wanted as the attorney general. But now it's passing now because the Democrat Party realized Jasmine Crockett, Kamala Harris, who came out with her book saying all the little challenges she had within the Biden administration, she would have done different than Biden if she was in control. Fannie Willis. Now that the Democrat Party is not in control because the corruptness is being exposed, thank God. But also the Democrat Party realized that they don't know what to do, the Democrat Party. They realize that this black and white stuff, this racist, this divisive rhetoric isn't working. And Americans are tired of it. Black, white, Asian, we are tired of that crap. We want real results. And Donald Trump, tell it how it is and he give real results, right? So the simple fact, and you don't have to agree with everything Donald Trump does. I don't agree with everything Donald Trump does, but he delivers and he says he does what he does and he says what he's going to do. He's going to do it for the people, pro-American. This Democrat Party has gone so far left that they're basically an adversary and the enemy of the build up and continue to thrive and going in the right direction for this country because they're protecting the legals to stay in power. It's always been control over party and control over the people that they're supposed to represent. Then they say they run on affordability. Not only did they use the black woman card that they try to use to empower and say that the white man is the enemy, right? They use these women, Jasmine Crockett, and say that they would be attacked by the white man. And at the end of the day, that conservative men and Republican men are the enemies, and white men specifically wants to see us down and we not picking cottons no more and all this crap. And they thought also in a way of attacking a white man, in this case, aka Donald Trump, any person that's a Republican is an enemy. Any person that's a Republican / conservative. You can't even walk with a MAGA hat and they willing to attack you. And that tells you how much good and evil they want to create. But they realize they are the evil ones and it's not working. They went to the State of the Union address where Donald Trump said, if you're for America, stand up, and no Democrat stood up. And that tells you right there where the Democrat Party stand. That tells you the sound that was the mic drop. They don't care. They don't care about no American. I'm for all America. I don't care what race, but they always want to make it a race thing. And black people will continue to vote the wrong way. That's why 80% of the people voted for Kamala Harris and still voted for Jasmine Crockett. The Democrat Party want to use whoever they can until they can't no more to get their way. And they realize that using these women, these black women, to try to make it like the white man is the enemy, the conservative Republican. That is the way we're going to gain votes to overcome this so-called good versus evil, when really the Democrat Party are evil. And to take it a step further, they sit there and say the white man is the enemy and the white man has been in control and power so long. And look what happened. And reality is, Kamala Harris is married to a white man. Dougie, right? So even if they sit there and say that these these far left individuals, far left women, they are attracted to conservatives, right? But then they want to sit there and use these women as toxic masculinity, and they are controlling, and they want to sit there and degrade women and belittle them, and we're not standing for that, and abortion rights and all that stuff, advocating for deleting babies. And look what happened. They are the same individuals that would sit there and go to a conservative Republican man. And all conservatives they just believe in the philosophy of lesser government, being able to pave a way, work hard, you get what you get, and you work hard for what you get, and being able to leave something for their families, assets, a house, the American dream, right? Being able to leave a trust, the things that pass down for their family for generations. While the Democrats believe in taking things away and taxing you to death, and everybody should have a participation point in diversity, equity, and inclusion. It doesn't matter. You don't have to work hard, because if this person work hard, you get to take from them. So if they make good money, we're able to tax them to death, and we spread the money amongst each other as diversity, equity, and inclusion, because you deserve to also get something that you didn't work for. I give you an example right now. Zoran Mudami, the Democratic Socialist. He believes that if a billionaire works hard to get where they were, which is the roots of America they want to go against, that now, okay, we should tax this wealthy person to death so they could be able to afford to stay in New York. Why am I paying for someone to be able to afford where they can't stay? But that's how far these Democrats have gone. And then they'll say the white man is the enemy for basically sticking to the roots, because conservatives align, they don't have to necessarily be Christians, but their philosophies aligns with Christian values, such as letting a man lead, right? Because our biological makeup. And that's why I say these Democrat women continue to still be attracted to conservative men, because your biological makeup from a man and a woman attracts each other. A man is more logical, a woman is more emotional. But I don't like how they using these women, and these women sitting here are being pawns for the Democrat Party to stay in control until they can't be used no more, and then they do away with you. Because with Jasmine Crockett, Barack Obama didn't back Jasmine Crockett. He backed James Tallarico because he realized that this divisive rhetoric wasn't working anymore. So we have to go to a more central, someone like James Tallarico, who's using the Bible and remix it to gain to resonate with independent and Republican voters, to lure over to him, which is deceitful. Pay attention to him, family, because he is the enemy. He's no good either, but he wants to play just like Governor Spanberger over there in Virginia, who ran on affordability and they end up taxing people to death, taxing people to walk their dogs. And now you're having a fight in Virginia where they want to take away your right to protect yourself, such as home defense when it comes to gun rights. But then they want to protect that they're able, as public officials, Governor Spanberger, they're able, whoever's in her office are able to keep their gun license and be able to carry to conceal, but not the constituents within Virginia. While they have illegals running rampant with sanctuary city policies. Chaos, right? But then when it comes time for re-election, they have this solution all along. We need to buckle down on crime. We need to give back gun rights, when they were the problem the whole time. So I'm just saying all this, family, to think for yourself. I'm not telling you which way to think, but I hate the ignorance. And then the black people will still continue to vote the wrong way. We got to wake up, baby. We got to wake up, right? We got to wake up. Now, on top of that political embarrassment, this story that with Jasmine Crockett that's getting a lot of attention right now, frankly, it raises some serious questions. I believe she was sleeping with this fella. The same way Fannie Willis was sleeping with the lawyer that was under her team, right? Because somebody looked over something on purpose when it came to this security guard guy who was a fraud in himself. Because according to reports coming out of Dallas, the man who was reportedly working as bodyguard for Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was shot and killed by a Dallas SWAT team after a confrontation with police. And the details of this situation or exactly why this story has exploded across social media and political commentary over the last day or so, because according to local reporting, law enforcement officers were attempting to apprehend a fugitive who had an active warrant out for his arrest. The suspect was located inside a parking garage in Dallas, and police say that when they attempted to detain him, the situation escalated quickly. And authorities said the suspect tried to flee the scene, and during that encounter, he allegedly pulled out a firearm and pointed it at officers. At that point, the SWAT team responded with lethal force, and the suspect was shot and killed. And that's the basic sequence of events being reported by law enforcement. Now, here's where this becomes politically explosive, because multiple reports and sources began circulating online, claiming that the man involved in this confrontation with police had been working as a bodyguard for Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. That's the detail that has turned what might otherwise have been a local crime story into a national political controversy. Because the obvious question people immediately start asking is this: how exactly does a sitting member of Congress end up with a fugitive, someone who allegedly had an active warrant out for their arrest, working as personal security? I'm pretty sure you need security clearances. That's pretty tedious to sit there and protect a congressman or congresswoman. But that's a pretty serious question, because members of Congress deal with sensitive issues. They represent the public, and when someone is hired to provide security for a federal lawmaker, people expect that person to be vetted, professional, and law-abiding. And instead, what people are hearing in this case is that the individual allegedly protecting a member of Congress was someone who law enforcement says was actively being pursued as a fugitive. And when police finally caught up with him, the situation escalated into a deadly confrontation. And that's why this story is catching so much heat right now, because critics are pointing out the irony of a politician who frequently speaks about issues like policing, criminal justice, and public safety being connected, even indirectly, to someone who allegedly ended up in an armed confrontation with police while trying to evade arrest. And of course, in today's media environment, stories like this spread incredibly fast. Political commentators, journalists, and people on social media are all asking the same question: what exactly was the relationship here? And how did this individual end up working security for a member of Congress in the first place? Now, to be clear, the full picture is still developing, and investigations are continuing to piece together the details surrounding the shooting in the suspect's background. But the reason the story is gaining so much traction is because of the political optics. Because when you combine the fact that this involved a SWAT team shooting, a fugitive suspect, and a reported connection to a sitting member of Congress whose term is almost up, it immediately becomes a national political story. And for Jasmine Crockett, who has already been in the spotlight for controversial moments and heated rhetoric in Congress, this is the kind of headline that only adds more scrutiny to her record and to the people she surrounds herself with. That's why people are paying attention to this. Because if the white man is the problem and they want to bring back modern slavery, Donald Trump, right, and all of this, how do you have a fugitive that's a criminal backing, sitting there basically protecting you? Because the bigger question now isn't just what happened in that Dallas parking lot. The bigger question people want answered is how someone with that kind of legal situation ended up connected to a congressional office in the first place. And as more information continues to come out about the case, it's only fueling more debate about accountability, judgment, and the kind of people politicians choose to put around them. Check this out, family.
Now to a major story unfolding. This one involves a man who was killed by Dallas police earlier this week outside of Children's Medical Center. Sources say the man who was fatally shot by SWAT actually ran a business placing law enforcement officers in off-duty jobs, and apparently he was also part of the security detail for Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Our JD Miles tonight investigating how he, apparently using aliases, was able to become such a prominent figure in the public safety community.
To North Texas law enforcement officers and U.S. Capitol Police, he was known as Mike King, but sources tell us that's not the name of the man shot and killed by Dallas police on Wednesday night during an investigation into his alleged double life as a suspected criminal, also working as a security officer for a local U.S. Congresswoman.
These images of Mike King standing close to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett shows how trusted he was as part of her security detail while she's been in office and while on the campaign trail during her recent run for a U.S. Senate seat. Multiple law enforcement sources say King was the man shot and killed after a standoff with Dallas police SWAT officers on Wednesday night. Police say he was chased into a hospital parking garage where he barricaded himself inside a vehicle before he was forced out by tear gas and pulled a gun on officers. Sources say he was wanted for impersonating a law enforcement officer. Sources say he claimed to be one while operating a business called Off-Duty Police Services, an online platform to connect North Texas law enforcement officers with off-duty jobs. Authorities have yet to reveal King's real name, but sources also tell us King oversaw a team of security officers at several downtown Dallas hotels and at his own church. Sources say King drove a replica undercover law enforcement vehicle with license plates stolen from vehicles outside military offices. His background, which sources say includes a criminal history, raises serious questions about how he was able to oversee extra jobs for police officers as well as obtain such a high-level security position for a sitting member of Congress. Documents obtained by CBS News Texas show a person named Mike King receiving payments for security services from Crockett as recently as last year.
We have contacted Congresswoman Crockett's office, and for now, they are declining to answer questions, as is the Dallas Police Department.
Of course they are. And understanding black culture and understanding, they probably was like, oh, I got you, bro. Don't worry about it. I know you a criminal. I know you got a record. I know you got a warrant. But look, I got you, bro. I got you. I'm gonna hook you up. You know how that go, man. And you gotta do right, man. You gotta do right. You can't have skeletons in your closet and be talking that much how controversial Jasmine Crockett is, the Miss Perfect of the Miss Perfect, right? Maybe it wouldn't be that much backlash if she wouldn't talk the way she do. Maybe, right? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below so far. And look, the other thing that makes this situation even more interesting is the fact that Jasmine Crockett herself has basically been missing in action lately. Ever since that humiliating loss to James Tallarico in the Democrat primary, you really haven't heard much from her. And the media that used to rush to put a microphone in front of her every 5 minutes suddenly seems a lot quieter. She hasn't exactly been out here doing the rounds. She hasn't been dominating headlines, and she certainly hasn't been as loud as she used to be when she was in the middle of all those viral congressional moments, right? And honestly, that's not surprising. When a politician takes a loss like that, especially the kind of embarrassing primary defeat that we're talking about here, the political strategy usually becomes laying low for a while and hoping the news cycle moves on. So I'm not expecting Jasmine Crockett to come out swinging with a big statement about this story. I'm not expecting the same long press conference explaining the situation. But the silence is exactly what's making people ask even more questions. Because when a story like this breaks and it involves someone who is reportedly part of your security detail, the obvious thing people want to know is how did it happen in the first place, and how does someone with that kind of background end up working around a sitting member of Congress? And how does someone who apparently had legal issues serious enough for law enforcement to be actively pursuing them end up in a position where they're responsible for protecting a federal lawmaker? Those are basic questions about judgment and vetting. And let's be honest here. This is a Democratic Party that doesn't know how to define a woman or what a woman is, and is a woman a man? But I'm just saying, because people watching this are already thinking it. And when stories like this keep popping up around certain politicians, eventually you start to notice a pattern. And this isn't the first time we've seen controversy involving a Democratic member of Congress and the people they hire around them. Remember what happened with the former Missouri Representative Cori Bush? That situation turned into a major scandal when it came out that she had spent huge amounts of campaign money paying someone for private security, and then reports started surfacing about that nature of that relationship. There were investigations and there were ethics questions, and the whole situation became a national story about misuse of campaign funds and questionable hiring decisions. And when voters in Missouri finally got their chance to weigh in, what happened? Cori Bush lost her seat and she got voted out. So when you look at this new situation involving Jasmine Crockett, people can't help but to draw comparisons. And they see another progressive Democrat who built a public profile on activism and political theatrics, and now there are questions about the people she surrounded herself with behind the scenes, because they say two birds of a feather flock together. If you be around losers, you end up a losers. So at the end of the day, I've always know and understand, and I even tell my kid this, that my kid represents me. He's a reflection of me, right? Ain't no different with Jasmine Crockett and her security detail. And that's why this story is getting traction. It's not just about one incident with police in a Dallas parking garage. It's about what the incident suggests regarding judgment, responsibility, and the kind of standards we expect from people who hold federal office. Because here's the reality. Members of Congress are supposed to represent the public and uphold the law, and they're supposed to be examples of leadership and accountability. So when someone connected to a congressional office ends up involved in a daily confrontation with law enforcement while allegedly trying to evade arrest, it's going to raise eyebrows. You know what I'm saying? And it should. It raises questions about how carefully these people are vetting the individuals they trust to work around them. And it raises questions about oversight, professionalism, and basic common sense, which we know these Democrats don't have much of. It's not much. It ain't common these days. Okay. All right. Maybe one day, but we ain't there yet. And again, until we hear directly from Jasmine Crockett or see more information come out, a lot of those questions are going to remain unanswered. But the reason this story is spreading so quickly online is because people are looking at the bigger picture. They're looking at the controversies, the political drama, the embarrassing election loss, and now this situation involving someone reportedly tied to her security. And they're asking whether this is just another example of the kind of dysfunction that voters are increasingly fed up with when it comes to certain politicians in Washington. So when you look at the details of this story now, right? This is the New York Post. And it says Representative Jasmine Crockett's fugitive security guard killed in standoff with Dallas SWAT team report. A Texas fugitive who allegedly worked as security guard for Representative Jasmine Crockett, a Democrat in Texas, was killed in a standoff with a Dallas SWAT team Wednesday night. The suspect, who went by several aliases, including Mike King, was wanted for impersonating a law enforcement officer and had claimed to be one while recruiting for his business that places off-duty cops with side jobs, CBS News Texas reported. King was being tracked by Dallas Police Department's fugitive unit Wednesday night when he barricaded himself inside a car in a parking garage at Children's Medical Center Dallas. At around 11:40 p.m., officials said at a press conference Thursday morning. King was forced out of the car by tear gas and aimed a gun at the heavily armed police who fired at the armed suspect. They wanted fugitive was struck by the gunfire and pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities have yet to release his real name. King had worked on Crockett's detail while she was in both Washington, D.C. and Texas, including when she appeared at campaign events for her primary run for the Democratic Senate nomination, which she eventually lost to candidate James Tallarico, CBS reported. Video footage shared by the outlet captured 44-year-old Democrat walking beside her towering security guard, who had been living a double life as crime boss, masquerading as a cop. And King had run the online website, quote unquote, off-duty police services while allegedly driving a replica undercover cop car with stolen license plates from a military recruiting office. How did he get those? I don't know. Crockett has mostly recently paid Mike King for security services as recently as last year, despite the shadowy figure having a criminal background, according to CBS News Texas. The Post has reached out to Crockett's office. The progressive firebrand has been a fierce opponent to President Trump and GOP members of Congress since she was first elected to the House in 2023. During her election watch party on March 3rd, Crockett accused the Republican Party of meddling in her primary election that specifically targeted Democratic voters. Despite the accusations, Crockett conceded and endorsed Tallarico, but said she wasn't making plans to campaign for the 36-year-old. Crockett came under fire last month after her armed security guards removed Atlantic reporter Elaine Godfrey after a rally in Lubbock. In quotes, they just said, Elena from Atlantic, white girl with a hat and notepad. She's interviewing people in the crowd, and she's a top-notch hater and will spin. And she needs to leave. A woman with a badge told the reporter as she was being booted. And family, I wanted to show something because I wanted to debunk Jasmine Crockett's statement of the Republicans messing with the Democratic votes, because 3 days ago she said a different tone. Because as you guys see, it says Representative Jasmine Crockett has acknowledged that Democrat voter turnout in Texas decreased following the implementation of an ID for mail-in ballots. I pray to God that we pass the SAVE Act, even though I know Senator Thune is weak. He's supposed to put it on the floor this week as of Wednesday, which he know isn't going to pass, but trying to make it like he's doing something, which he's not. But they can, and they can get the votes and do something to get them, but he's being a coward. That's just my opinion. However, I say all that to say that the Democrats are fighting on voter ID so bad because they know that illegals keep them in power. So is it really the Republicans' fault? Or now, since 3 days later, she changed her tune and say now that the implementation of voter ID, which just means verification for those who to prove who they say they are, voting with mail-in ballots, meaning you can only approve the person who is voting and actually the person is who they say they are, and it won't be illegals. Hint, hint, mic drop. So now she stated there was a benefit to shining a light on what it was they were trying to do in the dark in Texas. So unfortunately, we've seen our numbers fall now that they have these voter restrictions in place. No, you've seen your numbers fall because now you don't have illegals voting, because now you have to show proof of an American citizen and that they're legal, and that's American taxpayer paying into the system, which rightfully so, they have every right to do. Even a legal immigrant who did it the right way, a legal immigrant who came in this country the right way, who paid their taxes, should have the right to show and have the privilege to vote and make sure their vote is counted and not discredited by a legal immigrant because you want to stay in power. So as you say, it says Representative Jasmine Crockett reveals Dem votes plummeted in Texas after ID mandate for mail-ins. So now you can't have 1,000 Democrat votes for one address for illegals, and we can't verify who they are, because now we can verify who they are, baby. And that's amazing, right? Election integrity. So Jasmine Crockett over here saying that Republicans was meddling and messing with the Democrat votes. That's a lie. But anyway, I say all that to say, when you look at the story, right? When you look at the story here with this whole mess with Miss Crockett, and it comes to this whole fugitive, and you look at the details, honestly, it becomes even more unbelievable, because when you walk through what's actually being reported, right, according to the reports, law enforcement officials say the suspect was using several different aliases, right, including the name Mike King. So different names, different aliases. And when you look at that, in other words, this just wasn't some random misunderstanding. Authorities are saying this individual built an entire operation around pretending to be something he wasn't. The reporting indicates he even ran a website called Off Duty Police Services, man, where he advertised these types of security arrangements. And if that wasn't enough, investigators already said he was allegedly driving around a replica undercover police vehicle, right? So this guy was essentially masquerading law enforcement while running a security business and making money off of that image. Now, and you look at all of that, you got someone that's a congresswoman having someone masquerading around, making themselves as if they're a police officer or law enforcement or something like that when they're not. Basically impersonation. And now the political connection has everyone talking, because is that this same individual had reportedly worked on Jasmine Crockett's security detail? And then you see the video footage that I show you guys. It's pretty straightforward, asking a pretty straightforward question. And it's type obvious that the only question would be to ask is, how does someone with this kind of background end up working with a security member for Congress? Because you hear a situation like this, it doesn't just sound like a random coincidence. I'm talking about a guy who, according to authorities, was impersonating law enforcement, running a questionable security operation, allegedly using fake or stolen identifiers on vehicles, and they had a deadly standoff. That's not exactly the kind of resume most people expect to see connected to someone providing protection for a federal lawmaker now. And that's why critics are raising questions about whether proper vetting was done before the individual was brought into to provide security. Or was it a hookup? Or was they in a relationship? Hint, hint. But when you're dealing with public officials, especially members of Congress, who appear at major events and deal with sensitive political issues, the expectation is that anyone working security has been thoroughly checked out. People want to know that the individuals protecting elected officials are legitimate professionals, not someone allegedly living a double life pretending to be law enforcement. And that's why this story has taken off online. It's not just the dramatic SWAT standoff. It's the connection to a sitting member of Congress and the questions about how someone like this ends up in the orbit in the first place. And right now, Jasmine Crockett herself has been quiet, as I mentioned earlier. And she's already been pretty low profile since losing the primary race. And there hasn't been a flood of public comments. Normally, she's someone who's very vocal in front of cameras and microphones. But in this case, there hasn't been much of a response. And that silence is exactly why people are speculating, asking questions like myself. I gave you guys my opinion. It's disclaimer. These are all my opinions. As I just told you, we're still waiting for more information. I'm a sit and wait guy, but I'm just giving my opinion and the breaking news. So the questions are, though, did her team properly vet this individual? Did they know about his background, And how long had he been involved with her security detail? These are the kind of things people expect to hear answers when a story like this surfaces. And I'm pretty sure he got paid by American taxpayers from her being a sitting congresswoman and obviously probably billing, taxpayers to protect her. Because ultimately the broader issue here is accountability and judgment. As a public official, the people surround yourself with matters. The individuals you hire, the people who represent you, and the ones you trust to operate around your campaign and your public appearances all reflect your leadership and your decision making. I mean, don't you see the backlash that Donald Trump gets whenever he puts somebody in position in his administration? And it obviously reflects him, right? The mainstream liberal media will scold the hell out of Donald Trump. So all I'm saying is that's just part of the job when you step into public office. Now, maybe more information will come out that clarifies the situation further. Maybe there will be explanations about how this person was hired or what exactly his role was. But right now, based on what's being reported, it's a story that raises legitimate questions and has people across the political spectrum talking about the optics of this situation. Even myself, as you can see. When you combine this with everything else that has been going on politically around Jasmine Crockett, the heated rhetoric, the controversies, and now the very public election loss, it's easy to see why this story is gaining traction, why people are paying attention to it. At the end of the day, voters expect transparency and good judgment from the people who represent them in Washington. And when something like this happens, it naturally leads to people to question whether those standards are being met. But I want to hear from you. What do you think about this situation? Do you think this raises serious concerns about vetting and accountability? Or do you think there's more to the story that we haven't heard yet? Like myself, I think it's more to the story. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more commentary on stories like this, make sure you hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications so you don't miss the next one. Love you guys, and I appreciate all the love, and I appreciate you for rocking with me and just watching this video. Catch you in the next one. Peace.